Welcome back to season 2 of Suits in the Stadium podcast, season 2, episode 1, our very first episode where we're launching a video version of the podcast. Super excited to add video to this season of the podcast. First episode in season 2 of the podcast is Tim Tessalone. Tim spent 43 years as sports information director at the University of Southern California. Really enjoyed our conversation. I think the biggest thing that stuck out was when he talked about the idea of being in the bubble versus being outside the bubble. We can wait outside the bubble, waiting for that dream job to come about, waiting for that job that we always wanted and always are looking for, or we can get in the bubble by different means, maybe an internship, maybe a part-time job, maybe a job that we're not necessarily stoked on, but it still gets us inside the bubble. And then really once we get into the bubble, we can really work our way around, move our way around, maybe try to find a way into that dream job eventually. So really enjoyed my conversation. Hope you enjoy my conversation with Tim Tessalone. Folks, please help me welcome in the first guest of season 2 of the Suits in the Stadium podcast, Tim Tessalone. Tim spent 43 years at USC as sports information director. Tim, how are you today?
Great, Casey. Thank you very much for having me. Exciting to be here as we get ready for the start of football season and get ready for another fun sports year.
Absolutely. A fun connection. Actually, guest one of season 1 is a mutual friend of ours, Bill Schumard, and he's the one that connected us to chat. So season 1 and season 2, guest 1 have quite the connection. So excited to have you on, and we'll jump right in.
Let's go.
Starting back with your education, could you walk us through your educational journey and how it shaped your career path? Were there any pivotal moments or experiences during your education that influenced the direction you eventually took in your professional life?
So I went to USC. I went there as a journalism major and wanted to be a sports writer. And I think it was my junior year. I took a sports writing class, and I remember we had a guest speaker come in, and one of the things that he said was that young sports writers end up becoming old sports writers. And I said, well, that's not a very good, trajectory or upward, path. So I said, well, let me think if there's something else I can do that would kind of allow me to continue in the world of sports, allow me to continue being able to write and that sort of thing. And so I ended up taking a public relations class and introduction to PR, which just really excited me, turned me on to the world of public relations. And so I switched majors into PR. My senior year, I ended up volunteering to work as an intern in the sports information office up there in Heritage Hall at USC. And that's kind of where my path led me into the sports info business. And it was a great fun journey for 43 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you highlight maybe some specific times, maybe a specific job, a specific project that stands out to you as maybe transformative in those 43 years, or maybe there's more than one even?
Yeah, boy, we sure did a lot over all that time. Working, we had 21 sports. Each year you had 500 plus student athletes and, dozens of coaches and 100 administrators. So we were involved in a lot of different things. Some of the fun ones, obviously, were maybe Heisman campaigns. I remember being involved with Carson Palmer's first, his Heisman in 2002, the first one at USC and on the West Coast since Marcus Allen in 81. I mean, I was there for Charlie White in 79 and Marcus in 81, but then being able to do it again all those years later and to help Carson win it. And then, we were kind of lucky to have 2 more in the next 3 years with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. And even though I wasn't there this past year, kind of watching closely from afar as Caleb ended up winning it and all the things that the people in sports info and social media and marketing and all those people, they formed a great team to help Caleb on his journey to the Heisman.
Yeah, absolutely. So on this podcast, I have many listeners that are aspiring professionals, eager to learn from accomplished individuals such as yourself. Looking back at your career, were there any skills you acquired maybe outside of formal education that you believe were essential to your success?
Well, a couple things. Two things that really stick out to me. One is the ability to write well, and not only write well, but write in the style of the people that you're going to be communicating with. And to me, and what I did, that was the sports media. So I had to be able to write sports journalism, write like a sports writer, right? And I remember growing up, the way I learned how to write. Yeah, I had great classes at SC and all that sort of thing, but I really would, when I was a kid, I would sit and watch a ball game, and as soon as it was over, I would go and write a game story as if I was having to cover it. And then I would, this is way long ago, we didn't have the internet then where you could just instantly go read an AP story. I'd wake up the next morning and open up the newspaper and see what maybe the guys in the LA Times, the beat writers for the Dodger game or an SC game or whatever, and I would compare what I wrote to what they wrote. And then that's kind of how I learned how to write, kind of through osmosis and that sort of thing. And then, not to say stealing, but taking a lot of the styles and the way that they would shape stories and write leads and all that sort of thing. That's kind of how I learned. The other thing that I think is really important, when I worked, as soon as I graduated from SC, I didn't mention this, but as soon as I graduated from SC, I actually worked for 2 years at a public relations agency. I had a chance to stay at USC in the sports info office when I graduated, and I turned that job down because I wanted to get out in the real world and wear a coat and tie and see what that life was like. So I didn't really have anything lined up. I kind of laid on the beach for a couple months, and then my PR teacher, Bill Faith, one of the best teachers, professors you could have, called me in the middle of the summer and said, "Hey, there's a job opening for like a junior account executive at a PR firm. You want to go interview for it?" I did. I got the job, and it turned out to be kind of a blessing, because not only we had all sorts of clients, paint companies and restaurants and financial firms and stuff. But we also had the Motion Picture Academy, which was the Oscars, which was fun to work on. And we had the Pasadena Tournament of Roses, which was not only the parade, but the Rose Bowl game. So I was able to stay involved in sports a little bit. But while I was there, I had a boss who told me every day he wanted me to cold call one media person and just introduce myself and get to know that person. And I thought that was kind of weird and awkward, like you have to be really outgoing to do that. And I'm more, I guess, on the introverted side. But I did it, and it took me a while to understand why, but it made a lot of sense. I'm glad he made me do that, because what we do in this business isn't not only what we know, but it's who you know. And it's a very relationship focused business, in terms of dealing with the media, so that if you have a story to pitch, if you have an idea, if you have something you want to get off your chest, or you want to complain about something or ask a favor for, or whatever, that you can call somebody in the media, and one, they'll take your phone call, or respond to your email or whatever.
Sure.
And two, they'll listen to what you have to say. And if you don't have those relationships, if I can call Bill Plaschke at the LA Times, if I can call Chris Fowler at ESPN, if I can call, whoever, I have these relationships with these guys. And, again, they can listen. I might have an idea for them that might strike them, and they might tell me no, but at least they'll listen. And that goes a long, long way, I think, in what we do.
Yeah, like absolutely. Relationships are definitely key. Not just in your realm of sports and the sports information, but obviously across sports. Sticking kind of in that generic sports vein, for someone looking to break into the sport management field, what key skills or qualities do you believe are essential for success?
Well, I can talk, I guess, specifically about the sports communications field, but I guess some of these would relate also to anything in athletic administration, sports management, whatever. what we do, again, we talked about the ability to write well and write like the media. That's crucial. That's what I always
Sure.
look for. And then I always do look for what sort of media contacts do you have? Who do you know in the media? Again, goes a long way. But then there's things like, working in the world of sports, especially in team sports like I did, it's a lot of hours. You work when the team is playing, obviously, but you also work regular hours. So, I mean, you're going to be working your 9 to 5, but it's never 9 to 5. It's usually 8 to 8 at least, and then you're also going to work when the team is playing, and those times are nights, holidays, and weekends, right? And so you
Yeah.
have to have understanding friends and spouses and family and all that sort of thing. And you have to have the ability to be able to deal with all those hours, because it's not easy, and to somehow balance your life, balance what you do, and live your life and stay healthy and eat right and sleep well and all that. And you have to, again, what we do, there's not only those hours, but there's a lot of deadline pressure, getting stuff done by us, on deadline. So you have to be organized and kind of level-headed, calm-headed that way. But those, I think, are all important skills that we look for. And again, we're a communications, so you have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to write well, speak well, all that sort of thing. And nowadays, do it on a lot of different platforms, not only the written word, but all the social media stuff, the video stuff, graphics, you name it. So.
Yeah, just a quick follow up there. You talked a little bit just about the work life balance. Obviously, in a profession that, as you mentioned, is not a Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. Any advice or insight for young professionals in regards to work life balance, making sure you're not overwhelmed with your career, spending time with family and friends, and involving yourself in other things?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important to do. On one side of me, coming from the old school, it's like grind away, and you gotta work those hours, but you also have to find a time. Maybe it's a Tuesday morning where you can come in a little bit late and do your laundry and pay your bills and have breakfast with a friend or something. I always tried to, I would try to run in the morning before I went to work. If you have a family, I don't know how now looking back, but I coached a couple of my kids' little league teams, and so I would come, leave work for a couple hours, a couple times a week to go coach, and come back to work at 5 or 6 o'clock and work till 9. So it's not easy, but I think you have to keep it top of mind and try to
Sure,
figure out ways to do it. So, or
sure,
you get
absolutely.
burnout is a factor.
Yeah, for sure. Next question is just it's kind of around the competitive nature of the sport management field. Obviously, for myself, as someone that's trying to break into the sports management field, I'm learning just how competitive it is. And you touched a little bit earlier just on maybe different relationships that you've built along your journey. My question is just can you provide some guidance on effective networking strategies and building meaningful relationships within the industry? Because obviously that's something I've learned, and you touched on a little bit earlier, just how important those relationships are to help you get in, especially if you're on the outside at this point.
Yeah, if I ever got a query from a young person to say, "Hey, can I talk to you about the profession or whatever?" It wasn't necessarily a job interview; it was just informational. I always made time to do that and gave somebody time to, and I think a lot of people in our business do that.
Sure.
And I was always, not only did I feel it was important to do, but I was proud that somebody would do that. That was to take that step. That's, some people don't take that initiative. But if you do that enough, my thing on finding a job or finding more info about it is the more people you talk to, the more chances you have of finding out stuff, of finding about jobs. I always said, everybody you talk to, ask them for 3 ideas or 3 contacts, and pretty soon 3 becomes 33, becomes
Sure.
303, and
Absolutely.
then it's on you to follow up on those things, right? And finding a job is kind of like playing baseball. You don't have to get a hit on every at bat to be an all-star. You to find a job, it just takes 1, 2, 3 hits every
Sure.
10, 15 times, and you're going to be doing pretty darn good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you gotta take the initiative to get out there and to meet people, and so I always liked when people reached out to me, because I thought that showed a lot of initiative on their part. But yeah, it's not easy. It's a very competitive field. I think the other thing I always tell people, especially those who want to get into sports, everybody wants to get into sports. Casey, you're finding that out, right? And
Yes.
uh, everybody wants to work for the Dodgers or the Lakers or the Trojans or the Rams or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
there's lots of other ways to get in the world of sports and eventually get to where you want to get to.
Sure.
Um, I always felt that it's like a bubble. You can be on the outside of the bubble and being looking at what's happening on the inside, or you can be on the inside, maybe not in the ideal role that you really want, but as long as you're on the inside of the bubble, things have a better chance of happening. If you're interning
Yes.
somewhere like you're doing now, you're going to be walking around the hallways of Heritage Hall, or the water cooler or whatever, and you might hear something, you might meet somebody you don't know, and
Sure.
that's going to spur you on to maybe an idea, maybe a relationship with maybe an opportunity, who knows.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the other thing I always tell people about who want to get into sports, again, there's lots of ways to do it besides those teams I had mentioned, the big teams. There's single sporting events, the LA Marathon, the Long Beach Grand Prix, the LA Open golf or tennis, whatever. There's kind of niche sports. Maybe it's beach volleyball. Maybe it's Major League Lacrosse. Maybe it's minor league baseball. There are there's sports facilities. Maybe it's working at SoFi or working at crypto, or any of the facilities in town. Maybe it's working for a TV network. In LA, the ESPN has a presence out here. NFL networks out here. Tennis channels here. Fox is on the west side, and or and all those people have a need for sports professionals, maybe sports communication people, marketers, whatever. And then the other thing I say is, when you watch a sporting event, look at um, the stickers on the race car, the signs on the outfield wall, the logos, the corporate logos on the uniforms or whatever. All those companies, some way, shape, or form, um, have aligned themselves with these sports teams, and they need sports specialists within
Sure.
those companies. Maybe it's
Sure.
Pepsi, maybe it's Toyota, maybe it's whatever. So those are all, opportunities to work in the world of sports, and not necessarily with the Rams or the Dodgers or Trojans, but those can lead you to those. So, I worked at a PR agency, right? And that got me going. There's sports agents, that need marketers and communicators and all that sort of thing. So, cast the net wide.
Sure. Yeah, quick follow up to that, just in regards to young professionals and people getting into the industry. Doing my research before our conversation, I saw a piece about you, and something that you shared was just within your time at USC, how much you loved having interns and working with maybe the up and coming people. Why was that something that you found so much joy in, and just investing in the up and coming group of people in the sports management space?
Well, first of all, I was one of them once,
Right.
and that helped me. So, um, I think we never have enough manpower in what we're doing. So you get students, young people to come and help. And we've had some tremendous success stories of people who have come and spent a year or a couple years with us and moved on to bigger and better things. And, everything from maybe someone who became the PR director of the Golden State Warriors, Katie Ryan, who's now handling football football SID stuff for USC, kind of took over that role when I left. She came from Cal Poly, and just in the summer of her, I think, junior year, just said, "Hey, can I spend the summer here?" And she did that the next summer, and that just morphed into, look at her now. We've had people who've gone into even the broadcast world. I think of Lindsay Soto, or Lindsay Rhodes, who was at NFL Network and for many, many years. And we even had some guy named, I don't know, Will Farrell or something. I don't know what he's up to now. I know he was interested in sports info, but I haven't followed his career anymore. But he actually was an intern for us.
Okay.
So he made a good decision, got out of the sports info field, and doing pretty well right now, I'd say.
Yeah, but I do see that he is back around the team a lot. I see on social media, I believe last week at least, he visited with the football team as well. So
he loves
still
his Trojans.
Super involved. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
The sports industry often involves high pressure situations and rapid decision making. Can you share any anecdotes or lessons from your career where you had to make tough decisions under pressure? And how do you prepare yourself to handle these situations effectively?
Yeah, I think if you work in sports PR, you're going to have tons of moments that you are under pressure and have to make snap decisions and all that sort of thing. Yes, you can prepare for them. I always kind of say, okay, crisis PR. I guess that's kind of what this would be. And you can write out a plan, of, hey, we have a crisis. Here's what we're going to do, A, B, C, D, and on. But the reality is, when you get in the moment, you don't have time to sit there and go, okay, let's turn to page 2, and then, okay, let's go to page 3, because you're flying on stuff.
Right.
And so you kind of have to have an understanding of what that plan is. And first and foremost, you have to be, the PR person has to be the steady person in the room. When some craziness is going on, it could be maybe a coach gets fired or hired, or an athlete gets in trouble, or in our case, an NCAA issue. We've had it all. We've had, everything involved. I go on and on how many crazy things we've had at our place. But I think, you have to stay cool under pressure. And then, the basics really are, find out the facts. People are going to be throwing stuff out there. What are the facts? Talk to all the pertinent people. Assemble a small group of people that are going to work on this. And it could be your legal people. It could be, someone in the president's office, somebody from university PR, somebody from the athletic director, the coach, get this working group together and kind of come up with a plan of attack for how are you going to communicate what's going on. Sometimes you can't say much for privacy reasons or what have you. Other times you really want to tell your side of the story as much as possible. And then you develop a statement, a message.
Yeah.
And then you get that message out as quickly as possible. And again, all this you're trying to get done as quick as possible, because social media is flying. Back in the day when you didn't have social media, you had till the 10:30, 11 p.m. deadline at night. Now, if something happens, it's on social media right away. And oftentimes you're finding out about it after the fact, right? Because somebody on social media is reporting it before you had that chance. So you're kind of playing cleanup. And then I think, as I say, you get the message out, and then you just keep hammering your message, and you keep staying on point, and you, again, stay calm. You realize that every person you talk to, this might be the 20th person you've talked to. And you're kind of getting tired or frustrated or whatever, but you have to realize that's the first time they're talking to you.
Sure.
So you have to stay on point and sharp that way. And then you're monitoring and you're following up and you're adjusting and all that sort of thing. So I mean that's kind of the basics of it, but
Yeah.
the PR person needs to be the calm one in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Maintaining the situation for sure. One more question before we jump into kind of our final more fun questions. We
Mm-hmm.
talked earlier about, getting your foot in the door, breaking into the space. My final question is more about career advancement, career development. What advice do you have for professionals seeking to climb the ladder and take on more responsibilities? And are there any particular strategies you found effective for achieving career progression?
Yeah, I think there's several things. I mean, obviously, depending on what you want to do, what your ultimate goal is, postgraduate education, maybe it's a master's or more, depending on where you want to go in the world of sports. Um, it's meeting the right people. I always tell people, somebody asks you to work 6 hours, work seven. That extra hour is going to impress people. You're going to have another hour to find something out, to meet somebody, to learn something, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how putting in the time really does pay off. And don't stay only in your lane, if that makes sense. If you're in sports communication, go out and meet people in the marketing, go meet people in the fundraising, go meet people in the business office, go meet people in the operations and facilities, go meet, certainly meet people in each sports team and the operations there. Find out what they do, how they do it, all that. It's not only going to help you do your job, but there might be something that sparks. You might go, geez, this marketing thing is kind of cool too. I might want to go there. And the thing you have to understand in athletics, particular, and I guess it's like this anywhere, is most of the jobs, most of the opportunities are in revenue generating departments,
Right.
and sports communications really isn't viewed as a revenue generator, because what we do doesn't, there's not a dollar that comes in. We can tell you that, hey, we had these many impressions and
Right.
this social media post had this many eyeballs and it's valued at whatever, but there isn't per se a dollar in the till, right? Marketing does that. Fundraising does that. There's those are the places where you'll see the biggest growth, I think,
Yeah.
in the future. Obviously, um, as far as sports management goes.
Love it. Love it. Love that idea of just being a sponge, like you said, coming in, learning across departments as well, marketing, game ops, communications. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
different opportunities and so many different veins. Even as you touched on earlier, just getting in the door, casting the net wide as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing it home, just a few more fun, lighthearted questions. If you're going to live on a desert island but could only take three things with you, what would it be? And we'll say that all of your basic necessities are taken care of.
Well, I would say, I don't know if it counts as one or what, but I've got a wife and three kids, so I would want all of them there. I don't know if
Okay.
that's over
We'll
the
count
limit
it
or
as
not.
one so you can
We'll
have
count
more.
that as one. I would then bring a beach volleyball and a
Okay.
net. So that's kind of my sport of passion, if you will.
Love it.
And if we're on a desert island, I think you definitely need to bring some sunblock and lotion. So
All
that
right.
would be the other.
Great answer. Great answer. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Anybody that knows me knows the answer to this. My last name's Tessalone, come on Italian. It's pasta would be that answer. I kind of do that now anyway.
Okay. Is there a go-to place? I'm sure homemade is probably the best, but do you have a go-to place around USC or around LA?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. I don't know if I want to
Okay.
give just one, but yeah, I mean, my wife does a great job cooking too, and
All right.
so
All right. Final question. You're not on the desert island. You get to pick anywhere in the world that you want to live. Where would it be?
Definitely Europe. I
Okay.
love Europe. If I had to pick a country, my mom was born in Paris and lived there for a long time, and I've still got some relatives there. I love France. Very comfortable in that country, and looking forward to maybe going to the Paris Olympics next year.
Okay.
But I just the vibe throughout Europe, and I just actually got back from a nice 3 week trip there to
Okay.
parts of Europe. It's such a cool thing. The history, the culture, the people, the vibe, all that is just wonderful.
Love it. Love it. Final question. You may not have an answer, but I figured I'd throw it in. What's one question you'd wish I'd asked, and how would you have answered if I would have asked it?
So you didn't ask me if I could be anybody else, who would I be, right?
No, I didn't.
So I would say if I could be anybody, I would say I would be like Mick Jagger and just be this rock superstar and live that lifestyle and see what that's like. I mean, I've lived the sports lifestyle and not that
Sure.
I'm a superstar or anything, but just I've seen how that's gone. But I would love to do it in the world of rock and roll, and that would be kind of cool.
Love it. Love it. Well, Tim, thanks so much for your time. Just jumping on, being guest one of season 2 of the podcast, first guest with the video. Thanks for being a part of that.
Sure.
Thanks for just sharing your wisdom with those of us looking to enter or advance in the sports world.
Well, good. Glad to do it. Hopefully, there's a couple of bits of wisdom and advice, and happy to anybody wants to reach out. Happy to help them. Do this sort of thing with them. But Casey, good luck to you. I think this is awesome that you're doing this sort of thing. It's got to be super helpful for you too.
Absolutely.
And to share your wisdom with everybody else through a podcast is a really, really cool idea. So I'm glad that I was able to do this. I'm glad Bill Schumart was able to connect us. Bill's one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I'm glad you got the chance to learn from him too. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim. Thank you for watching another episode of the Suits in the Stadium podcast. You can still find the audio version of our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and many more. New this season, you can find the video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Please make sure, if you haven't already, to follow us across social media platforms, including LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We release new episodes every Monday, so make sure you subscribe so you never miss a single episode. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.